All right, guys, welcome back. We're going to do another review today. Today, I have Hans York right next to me, and he is actually one of our really active members in Pro Feedback. So today, I'm going to allow Hans to essentially take the reins a little bit and give some feedback on this track. This is from Gary Snow. This is a minimal tension track. So hopefully, we can give him and maybe some of you guys who are watching some helpful notes and thoughts and feedback to make your tracks more licensable. And that's what we're doing every day, all day long in Pro Feedback. It's a really awesome platform. So let's go ahead and take a listen to this track and see what we can do for you, Gary. Here we go. All right. Well, that was really, really dark and definitely intense. I really like a lot of those kind of creepy string sounds that were sort of going in there. Really interesting stuff here. Definitely, I think you are for sure in the minimal tension. So well done on just at least identifying kind of where you're at there. So I think that's for sure where it's at. But I'm going to sort of let Hans take the lead on this review. So Hans, why don't you go ahead and get us started, man? What was working right about this track? Let's start there.
Yeah, Gary, I love the track. I love the structure, the way you set it up, kind of how you build the tension. The 4 bar chord structure that then becomes 2, and how you go up in the notes, and that's beautifully done. I think that you're right on with the tension itself. You know that there. What I'm looking at right now is that there are elements in there that I think are don't quite fit the genre. And I know that Jesse said there are these really cool orchestral elements in there, but that is exactly where my attention went haywire, or just where I just started to drift off, because these aleatoric orchestral effects that come in stylistically, they divert my attention. I know that they are part of that, tension building thing, but even in tension music, there are a lot of different styles. And like when you come to that first part, if you look at the first part, this is more like an investigative style of tension, right? Like you would find in a crime show, where they just, they sit there on the computer and try to figure something out. And I think that you're bringing in these hybrid, almost trailer effects. I mean, that was another point that I thought, like, it is very easy to mistake that trailer genre and these effects that come with that, means the low booms and all that, for minimal tension. And a lot of times they are not used in minimal tension. You have more of a sound design that aims towards something more unique than these. The trailer effects is something we all heard, and we heard it so much that as soon as it comes, it kind of like, okay, that's kind of more in the trailer world, you would use that, right? Not necessarily in minimal tension, and not necessarily in the particular style you had there, which is more like, you know, so I said it's more like an investigative style of tension. So that has a little, for me, like a discordance to it, you know, where that, I think if you replace some of those you know, trailer-like effects, or even if you replace some of the aleatoric strings with a more maybe like a synth, or a more hybrid approach of that, rather like go away from the strings. Basically, I would leave out the strings. Actually, I don't think that in this particular style they really help convey your message, because all the rest, I mean, as soon as you start, as soon as the ticking starts and you start with a piano, I'm right there with you. But those were the elements that kind of disrupted me. And Jesse, if you could play again play me the part, the ending of the first part.
Somewhere around there.
No, like where this indent is, like really the ending of it. Yeah, kind of before that, how we get into the ending. I'd like to hear that again.
Oh, okay, yep.
Perfect, yeah. Yeah, so that's an example. Before, you know, you have this really cool, it's the hybrid, it has the synth, it has the pulsing, it has the piano, and all of a sudden, even though there it could work, but the downer for me doesn't work, because it really has that kind of a trailer thing to it, which kind of is in a different world for me, right? But the orchestral part there, the strings are subtle enough that they go through. That would work. Let me see. Let's do the same for the second ending there.
There you go.
For
yep.
the second part. Okay, that one I kind of really like, where how you go down in the dynamics, and there the strings don't bother me, and I think it's mostly because they have this one. You keep the one note, and as such, they don't stand out or say take any attention. Basically, they are just more like a texture in that thing. What I really like about this part is how you kind of how you dive down, and then comes this one hit, and that's okay. That kind of this one low tom hit that works for me. And I like you could go down just a little more in your dynamic before you have the hit, but I think that works really well there. And now, Jesse, play me the very ending. Let me hear that again. Yeah, you know, I mean, I get it with it. I get the use of the strings there. That, I mean, it works for me kind of like 50%. But if I were a library owner and had a track that would have the same material that you have, kind of, and not having the strings, I would probably prefer that over this one. I don't think that the strings really help it. You have already, like the tension, when I go back to the first part and see what you have there, it already has all you ever need for this track, right? So there is not I get it that, towards the end, certainly in the third part, you want to build it up more, and you want to be a little stronger. But I think you might want to look at different sources of that, not necessarily the strings. What do you think, Jesse? What's your take on that?
As you were giving that note about the strings, it actually clarified for me something about this track that I don't think I even initially picked up on, is that you're absolutely right. This track is trying to be three different things at once. It's trying to be an investigative minimal tension cue. It's trying to be a trailer track and some of the effects that's going on there, especially the intensity. And it's also trying to be kind of a horror track with those strings. Those strings are scary sounding, which is scary is different from investigative. Those are two different things, right? A scary scene is not necessarily somebody trying to fight, solve a crime or something like that. So I think your note about the strings started crystallizing that for me to like, yeah, I think this does lack a little bit in the focus. That's basically the biggest thing that I'm hearing. And I think the investigative kind of pulsing stuff where you started coming here with your shakers and everything, like that's gold. That's that's the stuff that you want to focus on. And you're right. Without those strings, there's plenty of tension here. There's plenty of forward momentum. You don't necessarily need to. You have this great kind of haunting piano in there that adds a little bit of that creepiness to it, but not to the point where it's getting thrown off. And then, that's the biggest issue. And then besides that, I think the volume is pretty low on this track. Yes. I really do think your overall master could come up quite a bit. But yeah, those are pretty much the two issues I had. I think the structure works. I like how you have these kind of builds, a little drop, a build, and a drop. Very editable, which is really, really good for a library or a client or something like that. But yeah, I think pretty much you're 80% of the way there. I think you just need to make sure that when you, especially for anybody who does minimal tension, it's one of these, such a beautiful form of sync music because it's so deceptively complex. It seems like it's so easy just to put a couple of things on it. It's like, oh, I only have to do 4 instruments. That could be easy. Go try it. It's much more difficult than you think it is. And you really do want to stay away from huge risers and big crashes and big impacts. It's not that kind of a thing. We don't need to. There's trailer music for that. If somebody wants massive, larger than life tracks, they can go get that from the trailer world. Minimal tension is a completely different animal. And so we have definitely some tutorials at Sync Academy that walk you guys through how at least we create this style of music, but it is definitely an art form. It's a less is more kind of an art form. You want to get away with as little as possible, but delivering as much energy and momentum as you possibly can. And that really means you have to be a great composer. You can't rely on sound effects. You can't rely on stacking up a whole bunch of instruments. You really do need to compose great music and great progressions and great drums, and you just have to know what you're doing in that sense. So yeah, that was pretty much it, man. But I'm really glad you gave me those notes, Hans, because I don't know if I even would have immediately heard that there is definitely a focus issue going on here. So any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
Well, I kind of I had this ideas in the last days about how I listen to music, and when I did a post about listening to music like it's a playwright, where the roles are important, which is different than story. It's just like the roles, who is the player and what are they doing, and that's how I kind of instantly knew there are these different roles here that don't play together. they each one says something, but as the audience, I can't all of a sudden hear what they're saying. And another thought is look at extrememusic.com is a great place for finding out the different genres of tension music, investigative and crime scene, where they come to a scene and it's bloody or something like that, which is a little more scary than when they sit and try to figure something out, right? So there are many, many different subgenres and sub-emotions that come with that will help you to hone in your focus, because I think for minimal music of any style, that laser focus is an absolutely must. So
wisdom right there. You guys heard it. Absolutely. Couldn't say it better. I love that analogy too. The sort of, actors on a stage, who's saying what are they saying? And are they saying conflicting things? Are they even in the same universe? So that's a great way to look at this stuff. It helps us sort of make stuff clearer for us and make ourselves more, licensable to our library partners. So thank you so much, Hans. If you guys want to get feedback like this from Hans and from myself, you do need to join us in Pro Feedback. There's a link in the description box below. You can learn more about our service. There is a 30-day 30-day money-back guarantee. You can cancel anytime, so you literally have nothing to risk, nothing to lose at all by getting some feedback on your tracks and seeing for yourself if this kind of personalized attention to your music could actually help you make some really, really strong changes in your production, mixing, and mastering skills in this business. We think it does because we see our members and our community telling us this pretty much every single day, that our feedback is giving them that clarity and that focus that they need to take their tracks to the next level. And as this industry evolves and more people hear about it and get into it, you better believe you have to supply better and better, higher quality to these libraries to stand out. So this is a really amazing service that can help you guys do that. So I encourage you guys to check it out. So thank you so much, Hans. Appreciate your time today, buddy.
Take care. Good seeing you.